Hello, and welcome to this celebration of the re-release by Wiser Books of A Walk Through the Forest of Souls. I am Carolyn Cushing, and we are working with some tech challenges, but as Rachel instructs us, we are walking forward. And I just want to also really acknowledge that Jenna Matlin could not be with us because of a family emergency, and she probably would have resolved this tech problem like that. But we're recording and we'll be sharing this later. So I'm Carolyn Cushing. I am with Soul Path Sanctuary. And my big idea is I am a student of Rachel Pollack's, and I love A Walk Through a Forest of Souls. It has informed my mind, and I work with her decks. And it's delightful to see this work coming in a fresh form. And I'll pass to, because I see Alta next to me in the circle. It's our virtual circle. And welcome, Alta. Alta, would you like to just give a little intro?
Sure. Thanks, Carolyn. My name's Alta Starr, another student of Rachel's who just my life was completely, deeply enriched by her teachings and her spirit. I'm deeply grateful to Carolyn to be able to be part of this celebration and acknowledgement, especially of the reissued book, A Walk Through the Forest of Souls. Yeah.
Thank you, Alta. And then Mark is next in what I see.
Hello, my name is Mark Horn, as you can probably see from my name below my face. I'm the author of a book called Tarot and the Gates of Light, A Kabbalistic Path to Liberation. And that book would certainly not exist were it not for the groundbreaking work by Rachel Pollack in all of her books. But so many of them are about Kabbalistic influences, particularly A Walk Through the Forest of Souls, which is truly a transformative and astounding work of spiritual philosophy. I urge you all to read it.
Thank you. Welcome, Mark. And Judika Illes.
Hi, my name is Judika Illes, and I'm a student of Rachel Pollack's too. I think everybody should be a student of Rachel Pollack's. And I am probably best known as an author. People know my book, Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells, the best. But for the last number of years, I have also worked as an editor for Wiser Books. And it was I have to pinch myself to sometimes I ended up working with Rachel, which, I had to stop myself from fangirling every time I spoke with her. But I was the editor of the new A Walk Through the Forest of Souls. And I am just so glad it's here.
Yes. Thank you. Welcome. And using a little banner here. Just to say that people can pick the book up, redwheelwiser.com. You can get it off the website, or you can go to your local bookstore and ask them to stock it and get it there. Get it wherever you get your books. And it is worth having the older edition and this new edition. And actually, that would be our wrap up with Judika. So, yes. But we are starting today with a Rachel Pollack approach. We're going to really kind of dive into the material. Jenna had this idea, so just sending Jenna her good vibes for what she is taking care of today, and that setting us on our course. And chapter 12 in the book is Opening the Heart, A Journey Across the Abyss. And Rachel walks us through the middle line of, if you think of the major arcana as the fool's journey, and how we are going through like this, the abyss, making this journey, going through a transformative process. And she moves us through from strength to the hermit, to the wheel, to justice, into the hanged man, and on to death, and then temperance. And Rachel is funny, she'd be like, well, this seems a raw deal. After surrendering, you get death. How do we make that a commercial for things? But then we move on to temperance. And I got this book just as we were being clear that Rachel was in her last days of life. And I opened it for help. And I read this passage, Trump 14, temperance. And this is the prelude to the reading we're going to do. Is not a vision of something out beyond ourselves. We have gone past that. Temperance is the angelic part of you. That part that thrills to eternity without ever losing track of time or responsibility. Temperance is what you can become if you open your heart and embrace death and move through it. So Rachel continuing to teach through her words and even in her last days. And what we are going to do now is I have pulled the cards for this reading. It's just so we could have a visual. So they're up. I try not to think about them. And we are going to kind of just communally discuss what we see in the cards using Rachel Pollack's Shining Tribe, which is also later on going to be reissued by Weiser. And then after that, Mark has some special remarks for us on the woman and the camel chapter and Kabbalistic work in A Walk Through the Forest of Souls. And as I said earlier, Judika is going to finish up talking about the title and this book as the kind of director's cut, why we need both books. Okay. And just to say, I will just say this. So this reading is a reading to open the heart, and that we use the cards for sacred transformation is what Rachel is saying here. And there are 7 cards, 7 questions. What is the heart of my heart? And I set this up to be kind of communally, you know, for us who are students of Rachel, or, you know, just meeting Rachel and coming to her as a student, and those of us who are both celebrating her life and this reissue, and then we're mourning our loss. We're in a temperance position, right? So this reading is for us. It's a communal reading, not just individual. But then, of course, you buy the book and you go through and you do the reading for yourself individually, too. But the 7 questions are, what is the heart of my heart? What closes the heart? What surrounds or obscures the heart? What is my heart's aspiration? And this is the one that Rachel said she and Zoe talked a great deal about. So you see Zoe Matoff's influence in developing the questions. And then 5, what will help you to open the heart? 6, what will carry me through? And then 7, what will I experience as you go through the open heart? So that's the overview. And then the questions are on each of the slides. So I'm going to pull up the slides unless anyone have a comment before we move to that. Okay, great. Great.
Oh.
Here we are. What is the heart of our hearts? Sorry, okay. Oh no. There's a tech problem here. Okay, I'm ending this. Sorry.
Oh,
all right.
Mercury retrograde is really doing
Wow. Yes,
it's all good, Carolyn.
I have a backup. That was the wrong card. Okay. What is the heart of our hearts?
Yes.
It is
the
6 of birds.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we might start by talking about each card coming up in the Shining Tribe, and then we can add, our understanding coming from the Rider-Waite Smith. All right. So what is the heart of our hearts? The 6 of birds. And this card was special meaning for me, but I put it on the table. Anyone, just what comes up in your heart when you see this image? What is the heart of our hearts?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that all 6s correspond Kabbalistically to Feret, which is the heart space. It is the Sephirah, which, if you do the overlay over the chakra system, it is the heart.
Beautiful. Just
And
resonating with the question, what is the heart of our hearts? Also, you were going to say.
yeah, just what comes up for me, I mean, just sort of feeling into that image somatically and what it seems to say. I mean, it's you have this bird reaching up, flying towards, yes, it's a full moon, but it feels like that deep, deep longing to dream and to receive wisdom through the capacity to dream and surrender to a bigger consciousness.
Beautiful. This card has special meaning for me. I mean, this is the soul leaving the body. So it could be at night when we sleep, and the soul is just going to explore. The heart of our heart is the soul exploring in dreams. And it can also be in death. Like this card came up for me as a help card when I experienced the death of my partner. And so it's like, tells me, the soul rises.
Yeah.
And that is something to comfort our hearts, that death brings this kind of amazing journey.
It also, reminds me of, the Shekhinah, the goddess, the Hebrew goddess, is described as having wings, so that, and there are prayers that we may be under the wings of the Shekhinah. So when I see this, and it is part of the prayer for a departed soul to be wrapped by the wings of the Shekhinah. And when I heard that Rachel was buried wrapped in her talit, I thought about, being wrapped by the wings of the Shekhinah.
Yes. And this is the sleeping goddess of Malta. Divine feminine figure, not specifically the Shekinah, but resonating.
Well, one of the things with Rachel in all her work, and especially this one, is she's, she has this amazing mind that hurdles. It's like a sacred connect the dots. And she brings so many things from so many places together. And I see the number 6, as somebody who works with numbers very much on a mythological level. 6 is the number of Aphrodite. And what is Aphrodite but love? The open heart.
We'll give Aphrodite the last word on this card. We'll keep moving. This group, I think we will just keep talking. Okay. This next question is, let me type this here. What closes the heart of the This is an interesting one.
Yes, it is.
The 7 of Trees. Alta, you're going, yes, it is. What?
Yeah, I want to sit with that for a minute. I'm just feeling. So I'm just feeling. I mean, when I look at that card, it's a card that I really love in many ways. And in this case, thinking about how does it close the heart? Is it about experiencing on way too many levels at the same time, being so open in so many ways that actually the heart can't do its part? Or, I'm just in questions about what does it mean to be, in that vertical spine, that alignment of the vertical power cord that runs up and down the body with those 7 or more chakras. Yeah.
So what obscures the heart?
Well, we've also gone from the 6 to the 7. And maybe one of the things is having opened our heart and having explored and having had these experiences and insights and revelations. We need to take some time to assimilate and absorb and gestate and, have time to maybe even hibernate so that you can take that and then move on to the next level.
Yeah, you're making me think about the obscured heart is maybe something we sometimes need to do to protect it, like what you said.
Well, the heart that is always open, without, it's a very vulnerable thing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that this has to do with overwhelm,
Mm, mm,
and that, so much, you know, was it T.S. Eliot who said, humans can only take so much reality,
Right.
mm,
Yeah.
and or even for that matter, so much love
mm,
before we shut down.
Mm.
And I
mm,
think that even in the face of such a positive, card as this, I know that I can shut down in the face of love.
Mm.
mm, mm,
I
mm,
find it threatening. I've reached a point where, in my introverted self, I think that's enough,
Mm.
and whether or not I want to, I close down. So that might
mm,
be a problem.
mm. That's interesting.
And the one piece I want to throw on or add, because it's sort of, such a positive message. Somehow it also feels as if maybe it's about reminding us of the pulse. I mean, the heart, as well as all
Yes.
the rest of our organism, naturally expands and contracts,
Yes.
expands and contracts. And there's something in that image that's almost saying, connect to the organic rhythm of the heart. So what closes the heart is its natural return to contraction and then back to expansion,
Mm,
rather
mm,
than just seeing close as negative.
Powerful. I said that I tried not to think about these cards to pre-prepare, but I did see this card and I did go to the Shining Tribe. So I bet there's something in what Rachel wrote
Mhm.
that would be helpful to this. And the last paragraph about this card is, to truly open the heart, we release all guilt and fear, all secrets and selfishness.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
this is also some of the impetus for the reading of, like, we are come into the world open, and then we experience the world, experience oppression, and like we're closing to rightly protect the heart. And that
What
this,
you just said, I was thinking, so does that mean holding on to guilt or fear? Holding on to those
Mhm.
things are what closes the
are
heart.
what
Mhm.
closes it down.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then so also think about the Rider-Waite-Smith, the Seven of Wands.
Mm.
That maybe fit the
Mm.
first
Mm.
flush of those questions.
So with the Rider-Waite-Smith Seven of Wands, I sometimes refer to that card, or the person in that card, as an argument waiting to happen.
Yes, yes, yes.
Someone who like goes into a room with a chip on their shoulder, expecting to be attacked, whether or not
Mm.
there's the reality of that.
Mhm.
And it's because they have been attacked in their lives for being fully who they are, and that can be what is the word, by making yourself vulnerable, being fully who you are,
Yeah.
you can be attacked, and that can close the heart.
Yeah.
Well, that is also something that I think you know having been wounded in the past can lead you to um, even walking into new situations that are
Mhm.
safe. You walk in already afraid and closed.
Mhm.
So that really does, the question, the
Mhm.
Rider-Waite-Smith does kind of really speak to what closes the
Mhm.
heart.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, but I am moving us along to what surrounds or obscures the heart.
Mm.
What layers
Yeah.
have we
Yeah.
built up? And this one is
Ooh.
interesting. The Eight of Birds. I love this card, and it's a nemesis card. So
Yeah. Yeah.
this is what surrounds or obscures the heart.
Uh,
Any first thoughts?
I can't really see the image very well. It's so small on my screen, and
Yes.
I don't have a Shining Tribe deck, so I can't really make it
Mhm.
out. Um, what I can speak to just is that eights are connected to the Sephirah of Hod, and when you look at it in its negative capability, it is the function of negative self-worth,
Mm,
devaluing the self,
mm,
so that if there's some way in which we have issues, I know that something that has hurt my own heart, and hides my heart, is when I am in a place of feeling less than.
Mm,
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 mm, mm, mm, mm. The figure is doing a divination, right? I'm trying to
yeah.
remember.
Oh,
It's
I would describe this. Yes, she's casting stones
casting
in
stones.
front
Right.
of, it's a volcano,
Right.
but there's a doorway into the
Wow.
Yeah.
volcano.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a huge eye.
And a huge eye, and there's the sun and the moon above.
Why
Mm.
don't I have this deck?
Yeah. Why don't you have this deck, Mark?
We need that deck. Good thing Wiser is reissuing it. Probably in
Yes.
the not too distant future.
Yeah.
Because my sense is it almost feels as if, here's this incredible, natural, explosive energy that the person's not in touch with in a way, and is trying to understand through this casting of stones. It has something to do with the disconnect.
Mhm.
Well,
And yeah, I was just gonna say, if I think of the Eight of Swords, which I guess would be the correlate card, right? It's that sense of when we're not seeing, when we're sort of deluding ourselves or imagining ourselves less than, as Mark just said, we're not seeing ourselves in our wholeness. So something about that is what the sense I get, is that here's this little tiny figure, and a whole universe of experience and emotion behind them, with which they're trying to connect but not yet able to.
Mhm.
The Eight of Swords happens to be one of my favorite cards, and I actually have had this conversation with Rachel about how much I love the latter swords. But I think it's also, we all come into this world as, babies full of promise. And, if you see tiny toddlers I mean, assuming that life hasn't happened to them too quickly, we come in with hopes and dreams and ambitions, and often a good sense of self-worth. And then life happens, and other people happen to us, and we have experiences, and some of us are dealt bad hands, and we almost lose sight of our own hearts. Like,
Mm,
what did you come into this world loving?
mm,
What, who were you? And I think trying to get back on that path,
mm,
but we often have to. It's a self-protection to obscure the heart.
mm,
Unfortunately, we end up obscuring it from ourselves too,
Right.
and that's not good.
mm, mm. My
Mhm.
thoughts on this card are aligned and kind of very specific. This is me. I think maybe because Joy Harjo, the writer, is the inspiration for the poem that starts this. So I connect this to writing and trying to write.
Yeah.
And this is me trying too hard.
Yeah.
From the mind,
Mm-hmm.
only the mind, right?
Right.
So it obscures the heart when I try too hard. Okay. Ooh, now this next one is a good one. Sorry. Okay. What is my heart's aspiration?
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Tower. The tower. Our heart's aspiration is the tower. And you can see the image is a little different in this deck.
Mhm.
There are no people falling.
No.
The lightning is
No, it's beautiful.
The lightning is striking and figure is
To
dancing.
break out of our constrictions, to break out of our limits, to fly,
I
on
turned
our own
over
volition.
that song, I Want to Break Free.
Yeah. I had a song go through my mind as well when you spoke, Judika. George Clinton in the Parliament Funkadelic say,
Oh, yeah.
"Here's my chance to dance my way out of my constrictions." I mean, that card is about ecstasy.
Yes. Any different thoughts? Bringing the Rider-Waite Smith or thinking Kabbalistically?
I'm thinking musically to the old song "Lightning Strikes Me Again."
Oh yeah, Lou Christie. I was a DJ.
Right.
So
And
happy.
but the thing that I love about the tower is that in fact we are all um, the tarot is a divining rod, and we are the lightning rods. We are using them to sort of draw down the lightning for our own illumination. So that's one of the things that I love about the tower. Sometimes, the information is a little too much and we get a little blasted. But that's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
I want to read what Rachel wrote about this card and this position. The position. Zoe and I discussed this one for some time. We wanted position 4 to act as a pivot for the whole reading. Place where we shift from what closes the heart to what opens it. So I'm reminding ourselves that we are reading for this community of people connected to Rachel, the seeker. So we are moving into this place where our heart is opening in our grief and our celebration. So as card 4 of 7, it represents the heart itself and thus the core of the issue. Zoe suggested the idea of aspiration. What does the essential heart self desire? To put it another way, what does spirit call a person to do? So we're doing this reading. You're going to want to have it. You're going to want the book for yourself.
Yes.
Okay. The next question, oops, I closed the book. The next question is 4, 5. What will help to open it? What will help to open it? Here's another fun one. The sun.
Wow.
I'm always going the wrong way. The sun. What do we think about the sun as what will open our hearts as this community connected by Rachel?
The hardness of our hearts melting. Being able to come together and openly and without agendas, without personal agendas, just to support each other and to support Rachel's vision.
Gratitude and connection. Celebration of all that's beautiful and nourishing. Celebration of,
So the lightning of the tower, lightning is momentary. It's instantaneous and it's gone. But the sun is there. It shines on all of us. And I feel like we were in the presence of Rachel's sunlight for so long. And now I think we're being asked to be sons to others.
And of course, Rachel was a Leo.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love that. And for me, the sun card is so simple. Like it's just open your heart.
Yeah.
But simple isn't easy. And
right.
And the sun being card 19, it doesn't mean that you just ignore the difficulties of the past or present, from thinking think about history or, it's kind of a perfect card for today of like, we are mourning and missing Rachel and we are so appreciating and being in her son still. Like they are two together.
Yes.
I think, Carolyn, you and I discussed this at one point, but Rachel really encouraged other people to shine.
Yes.
And I think that's, a word of wisdom to all of us to radiate our power and our beauty.
Yeah, it was infinite. Like Rachel didn't need to hold on to whatever her attention or her genius. She like wanted each of us to be in it, to be a son. That's a very good point.
It's very profound, this whole reading. I mean, for me personally.
It is. All right. What will carry us through? We are in this day, we are in this process, we are shifting. I mean, Mark, I a little bit heard you saying like, oh, now we have to the sun. So what will help us to move, carry us through? I'm always going the wrong way. This is the Speaker of Rivers. It corresponds to the King of Cups. And we have here a fish in the river, the bowl of gold, the city in the distance. And I want to say what's written on the tail, it comes from a rabbi. I wonder, maybe Mark knows it. It says, and I spoke a tale in story of such power.
Of what?
Of such power.
Of such power.
I don't recognize it. No.
Yeah. I'll look it up when I put the card down. But so what will carry us through?
Well, it's funny because one of the things I read in the Washington Post obituary was that Rachel wanted her epitaph to be story. It's all story.
Right.
And if the words on the fish are, I spoke a tale of great power. I think that really what's going to carry us through are our stories of Rachel and the stories that we see of ourselves in the tarot, and in the readings we do for others.
Beautiful. That's Rabbi Nachma of Bratslav.
Ah, yes, of course it would be, because
he gave up direct teaching and instead told stories.
Well, Rabbi Nachman is famous for his fairy tales.
Yeah.
You can just buy his fairy tales. So he is a person who saw the sacred in stories. And
as did Rachel. Yeah.
As did Rachel, exactly.
Yeah. So much about the tarot as stories, the process of reading tarot as telling stories.
Yes.
I'm just really struck by, this idea, that's in that card too, of this river of imagination, right? That we're just all joining into a current that goes back so far in terms of being human beings, and also has so far to go as long as we contribute, our part, our stories, and that's so much what Rachel was about,
And there is that little pun, the little word play.
Yes, that's so Rachel.
Right, and that is so Rachel, and being able to see the humor, because of course fish have tails.
Yeah. So here we are with our stories about Rachel and the stories she leaves to us.
Yeah.
Carry us through. And what will we experience? We go through this process. This is the 9 of Rivers, which is the Tikkun Olam card.
Yeah.
You said that the meaning of this card is Tikkun Olam, repair of the world. So I was glad, Mark, you were working out of you being here.
So the Tikkun Olam starts with Tikkun HaNefesh, which is, what is it? The Krishnamurti once said, the only revolution is within. And the rabbis teach that in order to do the work of Tikkun Olam, that is repair of the world, it starts with the repair of one's own soul. And that by repairing one's own soul, one is also simultaneously doing the work of repairing the world, because you are not separate from the world. And you are so interconnected to all of it. So I think we are all enjoined to do this work internally and for the benefit of all beings.
And a reminder that we're integral to the world, and that, because it's very easy to feel helpless or unimportant or hopeless, or that you have what can you do? The world is so terrible sometimes. So it's just a reminder that, as Mark said, that even that little, what may seem small, is actually a component of healing the world.
Awesome.
Yeah. I just am moved by that card. When we think of it, and I'm also just remembering, the 9 of Cups as, kind of, isn't that the card of wish fulfillment and dreams coming true? And yet dreams coming true actually has to also to do with embracing what's broken in us and in the world. I mean, that it isn't sort of some magical complacency that we get to skip that step. And then, of course, I'm hearing dear Leonard say, that's how the light gets in. There's a crack in everything. And there they are, the cracks, And what does it mean to actually just embrace and hold all of that?
Yeah.
Yes, the other thing about Tikkun Olam is it is a request for action.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do things to actually repair.
Yeah.
Don't just hope for them.
Right.
You actively work for them.
Actively work.
Yeah. And each of us has a part to play. Like
indeed, every one of us.
Part. I'm also thinking, Alta and I were talking earlier, like losing Rachel, or we lose people, like the heart breaks open, just like feeling it. But when we have loss is also the opportunity to just open our hearts up wider to all kinds of people and the broken open world and all the suffering that's happening.
Grief is the price of love.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll say about this card, Kabbalistically, cards that are numbered 9 are connected to Yesod. And Yesod is the Sephirah of intimate bonding, of staying connected. And I think it's important to remember that while Rachel has gone on to a new plane of existence, we are all still connected.
We are all still connected. I love that. One thing to say, it's kind of interesting about this card is starting to wear away. Really, I think it's kind of interesting. It's the Tikkun Olam card, and it also makes me very grateful the deck is going to be reissued by Weiser in the future.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is the reading to open our heart. We just like, actually, one or two people listening, like you put your feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Feel the earth coming up into our heart, supporting our heart.
I always found being
the air coming down and breathing from the sky and having that meet in our heart. Because she talks in the book about it's that connection between our physical and spiritual that happens in the heart that opens us up. And Judika, you had the heart of our matter here.
Oh no, I found being in Rachel's presence, because I first knew her through her books, but when I encountered her and got to know her as a person, I found being in her presence very healing. She just somehow would say things that were very illuminating, and I found healing. And I found that reading personally also very healing. So I think that's, the power of Rachel shining through.
Oh, Rachel. I'm going to go back to that as my segue into the next part. But unless maybe Alta or Mark, any overview thoughts?
No, I think I've said everything I wanted to say about that reading.
Then this is a great segue, actually, Judika, because I was lucky enough to be able to go over and spend some time in Rachel's last days, and just that loving atmosphere that Zoe and Rachel created together was kind of amazing. And Rachel, this was the last day she was really still talking. But people were there, and we were kind of talking, having a talk, or we'd go talk to Rachel, or Rachel was, it was not like fully like here we're like conversing, because Rachel was conserving her energy. But on that day, she said a few things, like kind of out of the blue. One I posted about, she said, the spiral is still spiraling. The spiral of fortune is still spiraling. And, I asked about sharing that then, because there were all the false rumors of her death and things like that. So she was like, the spiral of fortune is still spiraling. And Rachel, up until her last moments, was teaching me, teaching us, giving us gifts. And something else she said that day was camel, or maybe I'm looking for camel. And we were talking, it's like, camel? I said, well, isn't that on the high priestess? And then I think this was the day I had gotten this book. I'm like, there's something in A Walk Through the Forest of Souls about the camel. And there's a whole chapter on the woman and the camel where she talks in depth about some of the Kabbalistic wisdom and just wonderful things, which I think I should now pass the baton to Mark, because we were going to talk a little bit about this chapter and the Kabbalistic influence.
So, one of the things that Rachel wrote in this book, a quote that I feel like needs to be engraved over my door, is to learn to play seriously is one of the great secrets of spiritual exploration. And so the first thing I want to say is the reading that we just did and what I'm about to talk about with regards to the camel and the high priestess, this is all serious play. This is, like Rachel's pun about the tail on the tail of the fish, this is serious play. Because when you can playfully go with it, you will surprise yourself with the things that you discover about your own heart, about the hearts of others, about the path itself. And so I just want to sort of frame this whole discussion with those words of Rachel's, because this, as serious as this is play.
Right.
Because the reality is, I often like to tell people there's really no connection between the major arcana and the Hebrew letters. It was fabricated 100 years ago. But as Rachel herself has pointed out, it works so well together, it's actually astounding. And so the question is, okay, so you look at the letter Gimel, which means camel, and you look at the card that it is connected to, which is the high priestess, at least in the Golden Dawn system. Since there are all these different systems and you can play with any rules you like, but these are the rules we'll play with today. And she noted that the path, because all of these paths of the Hebrew letters between the Sephirot are connected to the cards. And the path is between Keter and Tiferet, the top Sephirah and the Sephirah of the heart, the crown and the heart. And it is the longest path on the tree of life. So she wondered, well, perhaps that's why the camel has to be there, because it's such a long journey. And you need what's in the camel's hump to get you there. So what's in the camel's hump? And she talked about it in relationship to the moon and our unconscious memories and connections to the past. And I found all of this moving. And she also connected it to the story of Rebecca, who was tested, before she was to, Abraham's servant Eliezer went to find a wife for Isaac. And when he arrived in Canaan, he came across Rebecca, who not only gave him water, but gave water to all 10 of his camels, which is no small thing to do. And this is, so I'm going to go to another Kabbalistic story for a moment. One of the first things that, the Kabbalists believe, the first thing that was created was the alphabet before anything else, right? Because in order for everything to exist, you needed an alphabet to describe the words of what things were. And all of the letters of the alphabet came up before the divine presence and said, please make me the most important letter. make the Torah start with me. And the divine presence said to each letter, well, you have this good quality, but this bad quality, so no for you. You sort of got this dual thing going on. And for Gimel, right, the two words that Gimel begins with, that begin with Gimel, are Gadol, which is great, and Gemul, which is retribution. So one of the ways I like to play when I look at a card like the High Priestess is, what is the greatness of this card? And also, how does this card represent retribution? Right? And the Shekinah is not all sweetness and light. The Shekinah is also a war goddess. Right? You don't cross the goddess lightly. Right? But the thing that struck me most, perhaps, is that there's another phrase which is connected to Gimel, and that's Gimelut Chassidim, acts of loving kindness. And what Rachel wrote about the camel was that, in fact, love will become the camel that will carry us home again. So I thought, when she said camel, or, somebody, she wanted a camel, she was looking for that which would carry her across the abyss to bring her home again. And I think she's surrounded by that love and that light in that way. But, talking about the cards and the letters in this way, she referred to it as tarot jazz, because it was riffing on these correspondences and how you could see meanings between them. And it's one of the things that I also love about her sense of playfulness, was that she was able to sort of make jazz out of the cards. Another thing that I want to say about camels is that they were the glue. Judika, you were talking before about how Rachel just brought in from every culture, from all mythologies, just brought it all in. And camels were, in fact, that line in the caravans of the stories that went all along the Silk Road to the Middle East and connected all of these cultures through story and through trade. And so I think of Rachel as being one of those connecting dots for us, or actually I would say a nexus of connection. All of these things, she was the oasis where all the camels could come and stop and everyone could tell their stories and
beautiful image.
The wisdom of all these cultures. So that's some of what I have to say about it. I'm curious to hear what everyone else has to say.
Mark's opening the floor for camels, the woman on the camel.
Well, that's going to make me read the High Priestess differently. The Gadol, the greatness and the retribution. That is going to make me see the card. Whenever I see, sometimes things when you see them, you can't unsee them.
There's actually, this is the thing that I am working on now, because I feel like everybody talks about, what does the letter mean? Oh, this means a nail hook. This means but it ignores the story in the Zohar that actually explains the letters and their hidden meanings and their dual meanings. And I feel like that really needs to be looked at with the cards.
That sounds like you doing the depth work that Rachel did with the tarot, with the letters.
Yes, that's what I'm doing.
I reread the chapter and I was making notes, and the camel, and this is toward the end, the camel who holds the great deep within its body carries her across. The camel is a fitting image for this longest journey on the tree, which she talks about people, Rebecca, coming from
Yeah.
into the greater than down into earth, but you can travel both ways on the tree. I'm correct in that, Mark? That is,
Yes.
yeah, you can travel the longest journey on the tree. Like the high priestess, the camel keeps silently within itself the memory of our origins. And I just was thinking about that, and Rachel looking for her camel, and that Rachel was finding her way toward like a memory of her origins, and that return as a homecoming.
Mm.
Rachel had a long death, and in that, I think she stayed with us and kept giving us things and gifts. And then I hope that like this is what she wrote. I hope this was like what was going on for her in her depths, that she just was working on getting on that camel, finding the memory of her own origins and showing us how we could do it for ourselves.
Well, in North Africa, traditionally, the camel is the sacred power animal in a way that, different cultures have different animals that epitomize what is sacred. And so the camel is not just, funny looking creature with humps that, you see in the zoo.
Yeah.
It was perceived as particularly sacred and powerful and a source of, we don't have a word in English, but, in North Africa, baraka, magical power, and, a radiating force that if you are in its presence, your own power also, it's like going to the gas station and getting like, topping you off. Your own power increases. And I think Rachel herself was very much like that. Rachel was really such a, in a lot of ways, I think was the best exaltation of being a Leo. In her presence, I think everyone was better.
In her presence, everyone was better. We're just sitting with that. It's beautiful.
And the other thing, you talk about it being a sort of a power animal. It was, biblically, the number of camels you owned was in direct proportion to not merely to your wealth, but to your wisdom.
Rachel had a lot of camels then.
And if we think of the camel as representative of the Silk Road, the Silk Road at its peak, and as the Silk Road isn't one road, it was routes that connected to each other, and you could journey on part of the Silk Road. But at its peak and at its longest, it goes from Timbuktu in West Africa all the way to China. So if you are thinking about the Eastern Hemisphere, all the way from the west, like the westernmost, like after Timbuktu, you have the ocean. After China, you have the ocean. So that expanse, and that expanse of wisdom and tradition and cultures, and being able to share and trade and bring the best to different people. And I think Rachel really herself was the epitome of that. And to be respectful.
Yes.
And that was the last thing that you said, Mark, in your remarks, was kind of comparing Rachel to the oasis where all these different routes and caravans meet. And certainly there is something about the invitation that she was to such different traditions and mix them all up in play, in serious play, for the sake of discovering useful stories that can be wisdom in action, wisdom in our lives. Really had that experience, I think, in every class that I ever took with her, or in reading her books.
Beautiful. I'm feeling like we could, like her books, her wisdom, we could move a little bit into Judika's part. Of Judika was gonna, we were talking about like the importance of the name, like the walk through the forest of souls. And I loved how Judika described, this book. Like, why do you want to buy another book even if you already have it? Is there are special.
Oh, don't steal my talk. I won't have anything to say.
But I'm just saying, there's special things, and Judika can tell us about them.
I have notes to make sure that I say everything.
Perfect.
I meditated with Rachel. Like, what do I have to say? Here's the new edition of A Walk Through the Forest of Souls. And, as I said before, working with Rachel is just, I can't imagine. Like, if I list the high points of my life, working with Rachel is certainly one of them. And working with her on this book specifically. The original book was published, quite some time ago. And it is one of my favorite books. And it was very important to me to bring it back into print. But Rachel also told me that of her own tarot works, it was one of her own favorite books. The thing is that you said something before, Carolyn, to give people, a reason to buy another copy. But the reality is that not a lot of people have read the original edition. And the original edition is not really available, only for really book collectors. The original edition is out of print. And there are copies if you look on eBay or on Amazon from third-party sellers, but they are going for a lot of money. And I don't know if the general public understands the concept of things being out of print. When books are out of print, it means the publisher has, for one reason or another, has decided not to print any more books. Whatever is out there has been out there for a long time. And if you are a book collector, as quite honestly, I am, I would understand why, I buy every copy of the Master and Margarita that comes out just because I like to see the different covers. They all have black cats and, so I buy everyone, but I don't really need
a file's heart glad.
Yeah, I don't really need it, but you need to understand that authors, work very hard and make royalties on their books when they are in print.
Right.
When you see somebody selling in the same way that there are ticket scalpers, there are book scalpers.
Yes.
And if a book is out of print, the price will inevitably go up. And, in all fairness, I'm sitting next to one of my out of print books. They only publish 3,000 copies. Books get destroyed easily. So if you want a copy, you are going to have to pay big bucks. But the money that you are paying, if you are buying a $200 copy of a book, that money is no longer going to the estate or to the author. It is going to the book scalper. So it's just one reason to buy the new edition is because the money from this, which is in print, it published, the birthday of the book is May 1st. The money is going to Rachel Pollack's estate and to support them. That is, I think, it's important to support our authors. This book, Rachel wanted it back in print too, but it was very important for her to do it her way. And being an author often means a lot of compromise. And it is when you are an author and you are working with publishers, even ideally collaboration creates something that is better than you would have come up with yourself. But, also sometimes you have to pick your battles. And there were things about that edition that Rachel maybe wasn't thrilled with. And it was very important for Wiser Books at this stage. I think we really appreciated Rachel and we saw her. And it was very important for us to create the book that she wanted. And so I joke that, in the same way that, particularly Orson Welles movies where, the studio would recut the ending, and the director would be a little unhappy. Well, and then years later there would be a director's cut. I consider this the author's cut. Everything in here, beginning with the title, was done to Rachel's specifications. The original book is called Forest of Souls, but Rachel always wanted it to be a walk through the Forest of Souls, because the book is not about the Forest of Souls. And I understand why it was changed, because every marketing department of the world is going to go, but what is the Forest of Souls? This is a tarot book. People won't know it's a tarot book. And, of course, we have the subtitle, A Tarot Journey to Spiritual Awakening. But if you read the book, you will understand what she makes it clear what the title means. It is not about the forest. It is about the journey, walking through the Forest of Souls. And for each of us, as you read it, it is your opportunity to have Rachel as your guide and walk through the Forest of Souls. This is, I think, my favorite of her books, because it is really like being in her presence. I don't use the word lightly. I consider Rachel Pollack a genius. And to be in her presence was dazzling. She had just this dazzling mind that would just ricochet from topic to topic to topic, that sacred connect the dots. And it was breathtaking. And I see it in this book. So when I miss her, I read this book and I feel as if I am in her presence again. For people who love the original book, or for people who feel they never got a chance to read the original book, or it's not accessible to them, it is, the text of the book is, I would say 90%, maybe 98%, 95% the same as the original. You will not find a lot of surprises. Rachel did go through it, and Rachel updated some of it. She had opportunities to maybe touch up things or correct things or clarify things, but it is essentially the same book. What is different are the illustrations. It is, let's see if I can find. It is a lavishly published book, and Rachel chose all the cards. It was more lavishly illustrated than most Wiser books, but it is just full of illustrations, mainly cards. Rachel chose them. A lot of Rider-Waite-Smith, a lot of Shining Tribe, but also I'm looking at a Marseille here. And Rachel went through decks. Carol?
I was going to say, also the Raziel is in there, and she had not created the Raziel.
There are Toth cards in there as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
She writes a little bit about the Raziel. That's what I saw as.
Yes. And well, it was updated. It was brought into both the current era, but also into Rachel's life, what she accomplished since then. And maybe somebody watching doesn't know, but Rachel and Robert Place created this beautiful deck, the Raziel, with the major arcana, and it's just one of my I love everything she did. She's just so brilliant. So she chose. Also, she got to work with since that deck was published, since the original book was published, there have been this proliferation of gorgeous decks, and we were able to and people were just so delighted to have their decks in Rachel's books. So everybody was just delighted. We also there are a couple other things. Like, I don't know if you can see, we have this little image in the back of thought shuffling cards. That was done in-house by our creative director, Catherine Sky Peck. But Rachel told us what to do. That was done to Rachel's specifications also. Catherine did also, I don't know if you can see, there's a really nice portrait of Rachel. So, there's two places for an author's picture to go. There's the back cover. So Rachel sent us that picture. And then Catherine created a drawing as a, by the time the drawing was created, we knew she wasn't long for the world, long for this mortal coil. So we really wanted to do something to show our love and to show our appreciation and to make it a little bit special. And I'm very grateful that Rachel was able to see the published book, while she was here. Because she worked very hard on this. There's a you know, it came out unfortunately around the same time as her passing. So, but she was very, very involved with this book. You know, she was the captain of the ship of this book.
Yeah.
And we are, as you mentioned before, Shining Tribe is also out of print, also commanding some high prices. And which will, I mean, I guess, you know, if you want one, you should get one, because the prices will only go up. But we will be putting out of the first edition. We will be putting out a new edition, which I think will probably come out around the anniversary of her death. It will be out around the springtime. So that also is the author's cut, the creator's cut. There were a couple things that Rachel wasn't happy with the original deck. She wasn't 100% satisfied with the colors used. And so she has, you know, we worked with her on that. She was also very involved with that. There will be a full color book, and it will just be gorgeous. And we're literally working on that right now. So
many exciting things coming.
Yeah.
I do think we could wrap up. I mean, we're not totally out of time, but also then I can figure out how to share the recording. So thank you so much for coming. I love hearing about the book and probabilistic perspective. So important. And Alta, you bring such a depth, and we have that student love together. And you pinch hit, you jumped in.
Thank you for inviting me. Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did say, I just do a couple of announcements. This is redbullwiser.com. I did figure out how to use the banners. Maybe it's the one thing I figured out how to do. So buy the book there. And now,
or wherever fine books are sold.
Wherever fine books are sold. Support your local bookstores.
Yes.
A local bookstore, if they don't have a book, you can tell them, send them to that Red Bull Wiser, you know, because they will sell, you know, one copy. If you want to order 2 copies, they will sell it. So
learn about it. Maybe they will sell some.
Yes, exactly. And so you can support them and support Rachel simultaneously.
One thing I do want to mention is the GoFundMe for Rachel is still up, because we want, this is a community. We've been had this reading about community. The headstone will go on the 1-year anniversary of the death, but we're raising money for that. So be part of, we can all be part of memorializing Rachel and be part of that. So that's another good thing to do if you're looking for something to do today. So I wanted to say that. I want to say thank you to Jenna for creating this stream, and it would have been so much better without her. It would have been so much better with her.
You're right.
For so many reasons. Without her, it didn't exactly go as planned. So, but it has been great, and we've been in the flow. We've gone with the flow of what's happening. I appreciate this group jumping into things. And there's more happening today. Pre-recorded things are a thing. Benabel Wen has something. And at 8 o'clock, it's going to go live. Jenna talking with Mary Greer.
Yeah.
And I'll figure out when this goes live.
Yes.
I'm so grateful. And whenever you're watching this, I'm grateful for you watching it. And feel free to spread the word.
Yes.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thanks so much, Carolyn.